Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Donnelly with Barrier Free Contractors, and this is the Accessible Barrier Free Homes channel combined with the Accessing My Home podcast, a little two for one. We're speaking and collaborating with some of the best experts in the mobility world, advocating and promoting fantastic accessibility solutions for those with mobility challenges. Today, we're speaking with Brian Johnson, Chief Program Officer at the Center for Independent Living in Broward County, and a huge advocate for helping people with disabilities. Brian himself has gone through a lifetime of mobility challenges, suffering a spinal cord injury at the T7 level caused by the removal of a neuroblastoma, a challenge to say the least, which his wonderful attitude has overcome. Brian's an expert on a myriad of mobility challenges and just loves helping people. And I want to say thanks, Brian, for doing this with us today.
Thanks for having me today, Michael. Appreciate it.
You bet. How about you give us your expertise on spinal cord injuries? In this case, your T7 spinal cord injury. Can you help us with that?
Sure, certainly. So at the T7 level, it impacts my ability to be able to walk or move. So I utilize a wheelchair to get around. Um, with that, it has encompassed a lot of barriers. Like I said, without dating myself, I would just say that I predate the American Disabilities Act. So places weren't always required to have ramps or have doors widened. So when you're in a wheelchair, those are typically some of the issues that arise is being able to get entry into places, getting entry into your home or getting entry into places in the community. Um, like I said, what I've learned is to be able to make sure I have a lightweight chair, which makes it easier in terms of being able to manipulate and kind of work in finite areas and things of that nature. Um, as far as transportation, that presents its own set of barriers as well. Most public transportation initially wasn't wheelchair accessible. Now a lot more buses and public transportation and even taxis do have wheelchair accessible, but they're very far and few in between. I've been blessed with the opportunity to learn how to drive utilizing hand controls. So that allows me to have that kind of freedom and luxury where I'm able to transport myself, finding the proper vehicle where I'm able to fold up and put my lightweight chair in and drive myself has been, like I said, very liberating. Like I said, I'm not reliant or I'm not having to utilize public transportation. So that definitely opens up in terms of being able to get myself from point A to point B. Um, Going back over to the accessibility in terms of housing and places of that nature, obviously steps are a great barrier. So you're making sure that places have elevators and the elevators are accommodating and that they're working, things of that nature, that they're in the proper area where they can be reached. It like I said, just kind of utilizing a wheelchair and the things we don't kind of take into consideration, curb cuts to ensure that you can cross the street in a timely fashion or get to the side you need to, and making sure that they're at places in the community where it does actually allow for access is always kind of things that you kind of look at. So it's been wonderful kind of just learning and going through the motions in terms of seeing how society has changed and how they've tried to make sure inclusion is part of it. But there are still places that I sometimes frequent where there isn't a ramp or the bathroom doors aren't wide enough for you to get into and things of that nature. So it's very humbling, and then trying just to educate individuals with regards to the requirements of what the American Disability Act states in terms of making sure public places are accessible and open and able to access.
Well, that's a big part of this whole uh, broadcasting of people like yourself coming on and educating the rest of us as to exactly what has to be. I mean, what's not now can be in the future, and it's critical. Give me an idea of your spinal cord recovery, the injury. How did you get through to the point where you basically are today?
Great question. Well, for me, my spinal cord injury was at birth. So for me, the only normal I know is kind of utilizing a wheelchair. So it's always been one of those things in terms of just trying to be able to find the appropriate modification or accommodation. From even an early age with schooling, sometimes schools I had to go to, I was bused to because the closest school wasn't the most accessible school. It may not have had the proper arrangements for me to be able to get to the second floors of things of that nature. So, like I said, it's just been one of those things where it's almost been commonplace for me in terms of utilizing a wheelchair because it has been from birth. It has been one of those things where, thankfully, my parents were very strong advocates even back then at that time to ensure. I remember growing up originally, we didn't have a ramp in our front of our home, so we got one so that I could gain access. Essentially, their desire was to always ensure that I could be as independent as possible, if
That's
you will.
wonderful. That's really good, man. Okay. How about spinal cord injury treatment? How would you, what today do you go through to enhance your abilities?
Like I said, I mean, I've been blessed. I mean, like I said, in terms of my level of care, but definitely I would say just making sure in terms of trying to stay in shape, trying to ensure access. But I mean, like I said, I think the most important aspect of dealing with my spinal cord injury as I'm aging with it is making sure that I'm physically fit and staying in shape. I think that is the core component of this. The housing market still continues to be a large disparity. I'm trying to find homes and trying to find homes that are accessible. They're very far and few in between. So you may find an accessible home, but it may not be affordable, or you may find something that's affordable and it may not be accessible. So now trying to find a way to make those two intersect to in terms of housing is always kind of a unique situation, if you will.
Well, that's what we're doing, bud. Okay. So lastly, you mentioned staying in shape, spinal cord injury exercise. What do you do?
Course. One of the things I do is like hand cycling, lift free weights, things of that nature to ensure that I keep my upper half or my upper body in shape. Obviously, that's at the core of importance to be able to transfer myself into the shower, transfer myself into my vehicle, bed, and things of that nature. But other things that I also do is I do work on trying to make sure that the muscles in my legs don't atrophy. So I do kind of do cycling that keeps the legs going. I swim when I can, which is a great way to
Yeah.
keep your body and
Yeah.
cardio going and things of that nature. I mean, like I said, it's kind of just tricks of the trade and things you've learned throughout the year, but also working with a great physician who kind of keeps you in tune and let you know as we all get older, we gain that 15, if you will. So you want to make sure you keep that extra 15 off and you do things that you need to do in terms of making sure that you're taking care of yourself, eating better. That's very important component of this also. I'm trying to make sure you eat proper food and take vitamins to keep yourself kind of well going and things of that nature. Definitely.
Well, that's all great stuff, man. What I really appreciate is you getting together with us today to be able to bring your expertise to the table. It means a lot. So, to those of you who thought this was of great value to you, please subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to receive our new videos as they get posted. Brian, thanks a bunch, bud, and we will be chatting soon.
Thanks for having me once again. Appreciate it, Mike.
All right, you take care.